Advised today's presentation is being recorded. Good morning and welcome to Chesser Resources Diamba Sud Maiden Mineral Resource Investor Briefing. Mr. Andrew Grove, Managing Director and CEO of Chesser Resources, will be giving a presentation followed by a question and answer session. All participants will be muted for the duration of the presentation. At the end of the presentation, participants will have the opportunity to ask questions either by typing a question in chat or by video and audio using the raise your hand function. If you do not wish to have your image on screen during your question, please ensure you've disabled your camera prior to raising your hand. If you have raised your hand and you have asked your question, you will remain unmuted for the opportunity to ask a follow-up question. On that note, I'd like to welcome the Managing Director and CEO of Chesser Resources, Mr. Andrew Grove, to begin his presentation. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. It's my great pleasure today to provide you with an overview of our maiden resource estimate that was delivered over the Diamba Sud project in eastern Senegal and the company's future plans. The company is entering a very exciting phase with the definition of our initial high-value resource, significant potential to expand those resources through exploration, and we believe a clear pathway to developing a highly profitable mine on the project. So I'll just go through the presentation. Disclaimer is read. So essentially, we've identified two high-grade bits of mineralisation in Diamba Sud on eastern Senegal. You can see that on the map. The initial mineral resource is 781,000 ounces at 1.6 grams per tonne. But importantly, that contains fairly significant high-grade component, including almost 500,000 ounces at 3. It is contained within two shallow adjacent open pits, and it's located in eastern Senegal on a very, very prospective portion of the Senegal Mali Shear Zone, surrounded by world-class ore bodies being Lulu, Gounkoto and Fekola. And it's previously underexplored, and with our mineralisation or our resource we've defined, there's a lot of focus on the area, including some very significant exploration going on our eastern boundary with Barrick. We're well funded with $7 million at the end of the last quarter. Senegal, we believe, is a very mining friendly and safe jurisdiction, and we've got some exploration tenements and tenement applications over prospective geological terrains elsewhere in Senegal that I think should add value in the future to Chesser and its shareholders. So if we have a closer look into Diamba Sud, we acquired the project in 2017. There was very little historical drilling. We undertook a tenement-wide auger drilling program, as did our neighbours to the east, Barrick, under the Bambadji JV. And what's that defined is a very extensive gold anomalous system over 15 by 15 kilometres, constrained by a number of very significant regional structures, the Northern Arc structure being one we've defined here, which has mineralisation defined by drilling over sort of at least 15 kilometres of its length. In our project area, we've the high-grade mineralisation, we defined two areas: Area D, which is typified by a large supergene enrichment blanket, and then Area A, which is more structurally controlled fresh mineralisation. Those are the two areas over which the maiden resource was defined. We've undertaken an initial metallurgy over both Area A and D in the fresh and the oxide. Excellent results, averaging sort of 96% recovery, which there's no indication that it shouldn't result in a very simple high recovery cyanide leaching process circuit. And we're also going to undertake early in the new year a very extensive exploration program of 15,000 to 20,000 metres to primarily aimed at expanding the mineralisation at Area A and D, and testing some of the highly prospective targets on the remainder of our tenement, which we think will result in, resource growth in the near term. And we'll have a look at the resource in a bit more detail. The resource is defined within a US gold price pit shell of $1,800 an ounce and reported above 0.5 gram per tonne cut-off grade. And you can see in the image there that that's the $1,800 pit, and these are all the blocks above 0.5 coloured by grain range. But importantly, there's nearly 700,000 ounces at 2 grams per tonne at a 0.8 gram per tonne, and you can see that in the image. And there's nearly 500,000 ounces with using a 1.5 gram per tonne cutoff. But importantly, they form continuous high-grade areas. They're not scattered throughout the deposit. So, we think that the resource is, really robust and really repeatable because the high grades are all concentrated in certain areas. Most of the mineralisation is shallow. 95% of the ounces are within 135 metres of surface. 40% of the ounces are oxide. That $1,800 pit shell has about an equivalent strip ratio of about 3:1, which is low. The resources are robust. We've run the optimizations at various US dollar gold prices, and at $1,500 an ounce, there's nearly 740,000 ounces within a pit shell, and nearly about 640,000 ounces of 1350 pit shell. So, potentially it's really got high conversion into a future mining inventory. The drilling is, identified the mineralizations are sort of nearly 70% indicated, which is important for us in terms of being able to start demonstrating the economics of the project. And we'll undertake a scoping study to show the what should be very, very strong economics out of this project in the new year. As I mentioned, the metallurgy is excellent. There's very low reagent consumption. There's no deleterious elements. Rapid leach kinetics. So look, at this stage of the test work, there's no indication we should have any problems with the metallurgy. Project infrastructure is we're very fortunate. There's no real competing land uses. We're within 5 kilometres of the national highway, within 7 kilometres of a river or a water source. We've got good, strong, skilled national workforce and a supported mining jurisdiction. And we believe there's a significant potential to add to the resources, both incrementally and exponentially if we get lucky with the exploration. And what all this has resulted in is, we've delivered this resource from essentially initial discovery in mid-2020, and that's delivered those ounces at a very low cost of $11 US an ounce, which hopefully shows that we're giving good value to our shareholder money. If we have a look at just a summary of both deposit areas, Area D, the Oxide Blanket, this image shows the mineralisation within the oxide with a really strong high accumulation of gold on the eastern boundary against the northern arc structure. Mineralisation here is 20 to 40 metres thick, plus 3 grams per tonne. It's within 10 metres of surface, so it should be really ultra high value mineralisation, and will go very strongly towards generating really, really strong early cash flows. The oxide remains a little bit open to northeast and northwest. Section through that you can see on the images is you can see the really high grade accumulation and how that resulted into the block model below. But the mineralisation below the oxide is contained within a what we call a favourable host rock unit, which is a carbonaceous unit. It tends to be brittly deformed, get lots of stockwork and variable mineralisation, but importantly, where intersecting mineralised structures happen, you get the potential to drop out very significant high-grade mineralisation over a long strike length, as we've shown in Area A, and probably what's Barrick's demonstrating in KB West. So there's a lot of potential in the fresh below the oxide. We've got some indications of high-grade intercepts through the drilling, but not enough drill density to sort of tease it out whether that actually develops into a significant shoot of high grade. Both deposits are very structurally complicated, and we're undertaking a full geological and structural review, which hopefully will lead us in the right direction to find not just extensions but repeats of this mineralisation. The step at Area A is 300 metres to the east. It's a little bit of oxide, but generally it's contained within the fresh mineralisation. What we've demonstrated here with the drilling is that the intersection of mineralised structures and the favourable host lithologies can generate quite significant grade and metal deposition, and we've defined a strike length of 250 to 300 metres of those intersection points. along the interpreted structures here, the north-northeast and then the northwest-south west conjugate structure here. So that mineralisation on those structures are open along strike, haven't been really well defined by drilling. But I think that the big upside would be is to find a repeat of this at somewhere at depth or under area D. We're hoping the structural study will help us guide us into there. But structural complexity is challenging in terms of demonstrating and finding additional mineralisation, but it also creates opportunities for more mineralisation to drop out. If you have a look at the section through Area A on the top, that typifies the intercept of the intersection of the favourable rock units and the mineralising structure, and that is, we hit that in every section over that sort of 250 metre, 300 metre strike length on a horizontal plane. We're pretty excited about the region and the geology. It's very intense alteration systems. Got some really quite complex structural setting. It's got a lot of similarities to Tier 1 deposits on the Senegal Mali Shear Zone, typically Gonkotto and Fekola, sedimentary hosted, and all the major deposits on the Senegal Mali Shear Zone are hosted within sediments. And it's not just us, Barrick next door with their exploration program sort of, definitely believe that it has the right setting to host Tier 1 deposits, and we've only sort of touched the surface with our drilling to date and our resource, but I think there's a lot more to come. Now, this is an overview looking east of the project area, our exploration camp we're constructing in the foreground. Area D, Area A, you can see it's a bit of a barren wasteland, so that's useful. National highways up here. You can see in the background Gonkotto sort of, and that's Mali over the other side of the border, and that's defined by the Falangi River, so the potential water sources. We don't see any impediments to a future development on this site. To that extent, we've commenced our environmental and ESI baseline work so that we can get ourselves into a position in 18 months or so that we could probably make an investment decision once we've done all the technical work, obviously, but and that would include getting mining licenses approved and whatnot. If we just zoom in, we think that outside of Area A and D, we think there's a lot of prospective targets. There's very little drilling outside of those two areas. We've focused most of our drilling on the discovery areas. What drilling we've done outside of that has intersected all grade intercepts. We just recently completed a 4,000 metre drill program over Area F, H and Western Splay, and we should get the results back from those in the next few weeks, hopefully. You can see from the image there's historical drilling with all grade intercepts. Interestingly, we put a traverse across Area H during the year. That's just an untouched geochem anomaly that defined a mineralized, steeply dipping mineralized structure, 10 to 20 metres wide, averaging 2 grams per tonne from one drill line. So we've put drill lines to the north and south of that, and hopefully, if we can develop some strike to that mineralisation, that's an easy win to add to the mineral inventory in the area. So the program we're going to commence early next year will not only extend mineralisation around A and D, but we'll also not fully test, but start systematically testing these other anomalies. And you can see in some of the Barrick stuff, they're getting mineralisation scattered around various parts of this very significant anomalous gold system. So essentially, in summary, Maiden mineral resource, high value near surface ounces, lots of potential to grow, and we're going to undertake a fairly aggressive exploration program to grow those resources. We're well funded with, Diamba Sud situated in a very highly prospective geological terrain with emerging discoveries in Barrick. Barrick has declared an emerging discovery at KB West, 5 kilometres from our boundary. I think in the last quarterly, they defined mineralisation over 1 kilometre open at depth, and including one intercept of nearly 70 metres at 2.3 grams per tonne. So the KB West and Area A, in terms of geology and alteration and sections, look very similar. So, and we've got a good cooperation with Barrick, so hopefully we'll learn off each other. as I said, we'll start aggressively exploring the project more fully early next year. And we believe there's a clear development prospect on the project which will deliver a very high value, high return gold mine, where Senegal's a very attractive and safe mining jurisdiction. And I think we've got some more exploration upside with some of the other prospects and the tenements and tenement applications to be granted over the near term, hopefully. So look, that's us in summary. I might hand it back to the moderator to open the floor for questioning. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. As a reminder, participants may now ask questions either by typing the question in chat or using the raise your hand function. If you have raised your hand and you are unmuted to ask your question, you will remain unmuted in case you have a follow-up question. Please ensure you introduce yourself before asking your question. So on that note, we'll open it up to questions.
Must have done a good enough job to stop all the questions.
That's right, covering all the bases. Okay, we have one question coming from Ryan.
Yeah, hi. Hey, Andrew, how you going? Thank you for the update. That was terrific. I think the resource is a great starting point, and we can see the upside, I suppose, going forward. I'm interested to know the relationship with Barrick and just the share of information on that front. Also, with regards to the drilling, what depth you'll be looking at in terms of, potentially exploring and really defining the next part of the resource.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Well, look, I'll address Barrick first. So we've got a very good relationship with the Barrick team on site and their regional exploration managers. We've exchanged data. And we do have exchanged ideas of what's happening in the area. That they're struggling a little bit with the structural setting the same as we are, and they probably have some more smarts than we do, unfortunately. But it's good. It's a very cooperative relationship. I think it's good for either party in terms of, if we can identify, really significant mineralisation in this area, that bodes well for Barrick, and in the end, they'll probably just swallow everything up and consolidate everything. But if they don't, and they've obviously identified some pretty good mineralisation at KB West, and we develop our project on the site. So as long as we've got a good relationship and talking, I think longer term that mineralisation could come to a mine at Diamba Sud. So I think it's beneficial for everyone to keep that communication and improve the understanding of the area. In terms of depth of drilling, that's up in the air just yet, Ryan. As I said, we're undertaking a full geological review and structural study. We're waiting for the results of that to come out, which we should get in early December, and the finer detail of that plan will be driven a bit by the outcomes of that study, and then we'll plan it from there. So look, I don't know what the exact depth of the drilling is going to be just yet, but obviously if we've got deep targets, the grade's good enough to support finding mineralisation at significant depth, because it'll be amenable to underground mining. So we will try to target that, and hopefully learn a bit off Barrick, who are doing the kilometre odd deep holes and having a look at what the structures are doing at depth.
No, terrific. I suppose just one follow-up question to all that too, just regionally as well. I mean, obviously they've had your Area A and Area D, your prime focuses at this point, just with regards to the resource profile. But obviously there are other sort of parts of the tenement area that might get a little bit of focus in the upcoming campaign as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think there's some very easy wins around the resource area, and we'll be doing those. And I think the results of this last drill campaign, when they come in, should deliver some mineralisation at particularly H is my guess, and maybe Western Splay to continue following up. But I think there's a lot of anomalous gold anomalism around the place, and what we've seen in area, what we've seen in area A is that the high grade develops in a horizontal shoot. So, you know, it could be blind or have less of a geochemical signature. So I think all the anomalies are worth chasing, and we're undertaking regional tenement-wide IP surveys. So hopefully that'll help us tease out some of the structural elements of the underlying base rock. So the drill program will be, you know, there's two folds to it: to add to the resource base, but also let's find the next bit of mineralisation, whether that's at depth at A and D or elsewhere on the tenement. I think there's a lot of prospects that we're following up there.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Andrew.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ryan. Just a reminder to participants, if you wish to ask a question, you can type one in chat, which will come to myself and Andrew. Alternatively, you can use the raise your hand function, and we will get to you as soon as we can. Seems there are no further questions at this stage, Andrew.
Okay, well, I'll conclude and say thank you everyone for spending the time to dial in and hear the story. I think Chesser is in a very exciting position for the company, initial resource with lots of prospectivity to grow that resource inventory, and, you know, potentially a very strong economic project mine development on the site and sometime in the future. So if you have any other questions, my details are on most of the presentations on the website, and happy to field any other questions in the future, but thank you.
Thanks for your time today, Andrew. Participants, that concludes today's investor briefing. A recording of the investor briefing will be made available on the company's website later on. Thank you very much. You may now disconnect.